Now, I'll begin with Iran's foreign minister having said U.S. arms exports have destabilized the world. Now, in a tweet, Mohammad Jawad Zarif said that Washington's extensive arms sales have failed to protect American citizens. The top Iranian diplomat added U.S. military spending has failed to also stop the 9/11 attacks, which killed nearly 3,000 people. He was reacting to a new report by Stockholm International Peace Research Institute on U.S. arms sales abroad over the past 67 years. The report shows how U.S. arms sales to Middle Eastern nations surrounding Iran outstrip exports to other countries. And joining us now out of Ontario, Canada is Mr. Jason Unruhe, political commentator. Hello, Jason. It's a pleasure to have you back on the program. Now, what's the ultimate end game? Washington, pumping billions of dollars, mostly to Tel Aviv and Riyadh. How's that going to bring about any kind of stability in the region? And even all the arms it's pumped into its own allies in Afghanistan, what it's done in Iraq. Has it brought about any kind of positive result, positive change? And if not, what is the ultimate objective? Is it even peace in the Middle East or not?
Well, frankly, the United States has really never looked for peace inside of the Middle East or any other place for that matter. The United States is currently engaged in a process of building an empire, which requires the use of force in many, if not all, situations. The main goal right now is to destabilize many areas inside the Middle East and Africa, but primarily at this stage inside the Middle East to justify a U.S. presence, or in many cases using proxy forces to overthrow governments which seek to maintain their independence from Washington. Now, these arms flow into particular groups which are to be used for that specific purpose. Now, oftentimes these weapons are sold to Saudi Arabia or Israel because this conforms with U.S. law, and then from that point either Israel or Saudi Arabia passes those arms off to others, which the U.S. in their current stage of legality would not allow them to do so, what would be unpalatable to much of the U.S. public. In other words, both Israel and Saudi Arabia are often proxy points for which a transfer of arms shipments to various armed groups around the world, which do carry out U.S. interests, would be used. I mean, the United States has carried out an entire platform of destabilization of the Middle East for many decades now, overthrowing democratically elected governments, funding militias that seek to destroy countries that have a very strong policy of maintaining their independence from Washington policy. So there is no grounds on which the United States could claim that they want to promote peace. There is no empire in history that has been promotion of peace. The whole point of empire building is to take.
Right. So what's the ultimate point? I mean, how does Washington dare to tell someone like North Korea it's not allowed to have a deterrent nuclear program, or tell someone like Iran it cannot have a missile program when it's the #1 arms exporter in the world?
Yeah, that is a great hypocrisy by the United States, that they are the ones that continually invade other countries, that fund proxy forces, etc. Yet they are so adamant against anyone having any means of defending themselves from that same empire. They decry the DPRK for building a nuclear arsenal that would be a large deterrent from invasion by the U.S. They are opposed to Iran even having a simple missile program that is well within international law. And this really does show the true intentions of the United States. If you are trying to make sure it is that you are the only one that has the gun, then you are essentially just trying to make it so that everyone else has to live at your mercy. And I think that's very clear with the foreign policy that the United States has put forward. In many cases, much of this has backfired on them. They created the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, which eventually turned into the Taliban, which ended up having at least some role in the events of September 11th, 2001. The creation of ISIS is a product of the destabilization of Iraq and other countries throughout the Middle East, which was created by the U.S. invasion of that country, the rise of slavery and other militant groups in Libya as a result of their interference in that country. And it's frequently a case where the U.S. violent foreign policy towards empire building has come back to bite them, because this is the risk you take if you are seeking a process of destabilization and the spread of arms. There is a chance that many of this, combined with the hostility towards your empire, can be turned back upon you.
Thank you much for your perspective there, Mr. Jason Unruhe, political commentator out of Ontario, Canada.